Hi everybody, I hope you're doing very well. So today we're going to be looking at some of the output features from the Roland Blues Cube Artist. And this topic was requested by some viewers from the Roland Blues Cube Artist fan page, and if you are a fan of this amp, I recommend you join it because there's a great deal of very useful information surrounding this amp and the different ways you can use it. But as I say, today we're going to be focusing on comparing the different outputs that you can use on it. And what I'll be comparing specifically is miking up the guitar amp as I usually do, the 1/4 inch line out, and the USB out. I've set up my little studio here, still in a state of flux I'm afraid, things are still moving around, but I've set it up so that we can record those three outputs all at the same time with me playing the same thing so we can get a really true comparison between each of them. I'll try and make it clear on the screen as to which output I'm using at that time, but what you'll hear and see me play every time is exactly the same bit of footage. And so, to record these sound samples, I'm using my trusty Fender Strat, and for those of you that have been watching the channel so far, you'll have seen this guitar quite a bit, so no surprise there. As far as miking the amp goes, I'm just using a good old-fashioned Shure SM57, 1 inch away from the speaker cab, and just slightly off-center from the cone. All the settings for the amp are just here, and I normally use this EQ on the amp really, it's my sort of comfort zone in terms of the tone of it. I take out a little bit of mid, tiny bit of bass, add in a bit of treble and some presence. I just like a bit more of a sort of chimey, sparkly sound. So what I'm going to do is have a sample of the clean channel, sample of the crunch channel, and use those same EQ settings each time. Right, comparison time, here we go. So, what do you guys think? For me, it seems there's a definite difference between the mic'd sample and the line out and USB samples. As you could probably hear, there was a lot more top end on the mic sample, and that's generally why I like using it more for recording. There's more brilliance and clarity to get through a mix a lot easier. And when it comes to the line out and USB samples, as far as I'm concerned, there was very little difference between them. Now, I can't say for sure, and this is just a guess on my part, what Roland were going for here, but I assume they've got a warmer sound with a bit less brightness in because they were trying to perhaps model the sound of a warmer ribbon mic, which would often get used on Fender amps and stuff in the studio because of how bright and brittle they might have sounded. And this is why I pointed out in my first Blues Cube video on here that using the line out in a live situation is probably a more desirable option because you're taking off that really brittle attack, which is not so easily controllable at high volumes. That may of course be what you're after, like me, if you're trying to get that sparkly sound in a studio to cut through a mix, but for a live setting it's probably a great way to deal with the immediate unpleasant harshness for the audience. Just a quick side note here, if you're using either the line out or the USB out, remember that the master volume on the amp doesn't control the output level. This kind of comes in handy in a live situation because the amp becomes a sort of monitor for your guitar signal only. So you can have that as loud or as quiet as you need it to be, but please remember, be kind to your sound engineers and bandmates. To wrap things up, I'll just say that it's up to you which output you want to use and whatever your purposes are. I merely showed you what it sounds like when you mic it up with an SM57, so bear in mind that as well as all the many variables that can change the sound, a mic is quite crucial in that signal chain. I encourage you all to experiment with any mics that you may have to find a cool sound that works for you. And I don't just mean one necessarily, you could have a combination of mics that really work well together. And at the end of the day, the search for our preferred tone is all about experimentation and finding what works for us, so give it a go. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you can catch any content like this, plus anything else that you'll no doubt enjoy. I still have slots available for online one-on-one guitar tuition, so you can get in touch with me about that on the socials that I have linked below, as always, in the description. Until the next one folks, stay safe out there, stay positive, and stay musical.